Welcome back to the Clarinet podcast. Before we get started, I want to remind you that for a few more days, it is Listener Appreciation Month here on the show, and you can enter to win a Bakun Protege clarinet in Cocobolo wood with gold keys and 6 Leger reeds of your choice. This prize is worth over 3,000 US dollars. I want to thank our amazing sponsors for making this giveaway possible, but also, most of all, I want to thank you for listening to the show now for over 5 years. And this is episode 150 today, which is a huge achievement both for me as a podcaster, but also for you as a listener. That's a lot of hours spent listening to the Clarinet podcast, and I thank you for joining me along this journey. So if you want a chance to win that amazing prize, head to clarinet.com/enter. That's clarinet.com/enter. Hi, I'm Sean Perrin, and you're listening to episode 150 of the Clarinet Podcast, the show for clarinetists. On today's episode, I'm joined again by two wonderful listeners. We have Dennis Kwok, and he has just finished up his university training and shares some tips for getting started as a freelancer and how to get a diversified work portfolio going early on in your career. He also just finished his recording of a solo CD project, which you can check out at his website, which we'll share with you later in the episode. And also today we have Eric Batchelder, who is a longtime listener of this show for close to 5 years now and has now made the decision to go on to music for a career in college. So congratulations, Eric, on your acceptance into college education as a musician. And even though he's just starting his career, he actually shares some really great advice for young students on how to get the best out of your current lessons and some tips for getting into auditions. So I want to thank our 77 Patreon backers for making the show possible. If you want to get access to ad-free extended versions of the show, you can do this for as little as $1 per month or just $10 per year at clarinet.com/subscribe. Also, thank you to our sponsors. You can take your playing to the next level with Bakun Musical Services. With 14-day trials, free shipping on eligible orders, and expert advice, you can be sure you're making the best choice for your musical needs. For Canadian customers, be sure to check out the new store that allows you to pay in Canadian dollars. And for everyone listening, I have an exclusive coupon that lets you get 10% off any purchase. Just use code Clarinet at checkout at bakunmusical.com. That's code Clarinet at bakunmusical.com. Imagine a reed that lets you focus on your music, lasts for months instead of days, and even saves you money in the long run. It's all possible with Leger Reeds, the world's leading synthetic reed brand made right here in Canada. The European cut reed is preferred by Leger artists all over the world, including Eddie Daniels, David Schifrin, Corrado Giuffretti, and many others. It offers a warm, clean sound with great ease of articulation and is now available for E-flat, B-flat, and bass clarinet. Learn more at your local music store or at leger.com. That's LEGERE.com. I'm here today with Dennis Kwok, who is back on the podcast. He first came on for a listener lightning round a couple years ago, and I want to welcome you back on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me back.
So a lot has changed since last time. So why don't you give us a bit of an update about what you've been doing? And I think the first time we chatted, you had just headed off to start one of your degrees, and now you're through that. And why don't you give us all an update?
Yeah, so I finished my Bachelor of Music at Humber College last April. So it's been about exactly a year since freelancing in Toronto. So I moved permanently to Toronto and have been freelancing for the past year, and it's been good. Really tough, kind of navigating the world of things, but it's been good. Like making music and being able to make a living through music, luckily, and I guess that's that.
So what have you found has helped you kind of break into the scene in Toronto there? Or do you feel like you're still kind of in the process of that?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And the interesting thing was every bigger gig that I was getting from month to month came from a sub or a sub call. So someone would pass my name up to sub for them. And then if I did a good job, whoever was in charge, whether as a musical director or a band leader or anyone or another musician, they would be like, oh, you did a good job on this. Well, I have this other thing coming up. And I need someone. And since you're here, it's just convenient to ask someone. So so breaking in the scene has mostly just been a little bit of patience, a little bit of luck, and being in the right time, right place, right time. And the other thing was just being available enough that I could take on a last minute sub thing. I found that a lot of the time, a gig would come up maybe with a day or two's notice. And if I was too busy working, let's say, yeah, teaching, anything else, basically, then I would have to say no. So just keeping that balance between having enough stability and having enough time off to be able to take on these last minute sub things has been, I guess, the key.
Yeah, I think
So,
that's actually exactly what I was doing when I first decided back in 2012. Because I graduated in 2009 and I spent kind of 3 years working and doing odd jobs. And in 2012, I decided I wanted to be basically a yes man. Like if anyone needed anything for performance or clarinet, I could say yes. And my way of finding that was to actually start teaching a lot more, because then it's very easy to move your students and say yes to some gig, even at last minute. But it's not very easy if you're working for another person, right, to do that. So it's really great to hear that you've also kind of found that same thing. What resources have you found along the way that have helped you to sort of discover how to better freelance or connect or learn about this economy?
I think it's just talking to other freelancers, especially people a couple years out of school and even 5, 10 years ahead, and just pick their brain. What I found is so I was hanging with Alison Au, Juno Award winner saxophonist, last summer, and
Hmm.
she said the same thing. She was saying that when she was fresh out of school. She didn't know what was going on, and then did a cruise ship contract like pretty like that fall, so a couple months later, and then so even people like that who are very successful in the music scene now are like, yeah, like right out of school, it's just like it's going to be tough for a little while, but every month it gets a little better. And just it's good to stay as busy as you can, but also don't be afraid to do other jobs to make ends meet. So over the summer, I was talking to people fresh out of school, and they're like, oh yeah, like I did these odd jobs, and I did this thing just to keep afloat. And so last summer, I busked a lot. I ended up doing a flyer route. I had a church gig for a while. So yeah, like a whole bunch of things until the income kind of settled and I could break even on just music related things.
Well, I think it's sometimes a very American kind of philosophy, but there is a lot of truth to it, that it doesn't matter what you're doing. There's a great honor to being able to earn a living, right? And it's funny because I look back on a lot of the stuff that I did when I was in university, because I was not, riding on a ton of money from my parents or something like this, or living off scholarships. I had to work as well. And I did everything from working as a dishwasher in a restaurant to working in a cafe or a coffee shop. I did car work, like I did all sorts of stuff. And I
Hmm.
mean, I actually look back on a lot of that stuff with I don't know if pride or pleasure is the right word. I'm trying to think of the right word, but every one of those odd jobs taught me something which I now use in my either day-to-day life or my career in some strange way. Like it's surprisingly important to know how to make a great cup of coffee. you know
Yeah, for sure, for
so
sure.
even if you're out there listening, and a lot of students right now would normally be going into summer work of some sort. I don't know what's going to happen this year, but I mean, try not to look at these jobs as like, oh, I have to do this until I can do this allegedly better thing. Like, try to learn something either about business or interacting with people or some skill, anything. I mean, even the restaurant I worked in, I mean, I didn't wash dishes for long, but right away I was making sandwiches and learning about frying food, and I still enjoy cooking more to this day because of the stuff I learned there. So
Hmm. Yeah,
yeah.
and one of the things is like I remember being in school and it's like, oh well, all I want to do is to be a working musician, not
Hmm.
necessarily to be like the top call whatever, anything, or like to be recognized in this way. It's like just to work. And now that I'm looking back, it's like I'm breaking even doing music things, and that's I guess what I wanted is to just work as a musician. So
Yeah.
I think it's important for us to just take a step back and be like, okay, well, we're able to find a career doing this, and that's pretty fortunate already.
I remember looking back now, because I'm not really freelancing anymore. My career's taken some sort of odd turns here, especially hurt my hand, and I've been doing all this,
Yeah.
stuff I never would have thought with the podcast, and so things really, really changed. But I remember back when I was freelancing too, it sometimes was interesting for me to talk to people because they couldn't believe that you could make a living playing clarinet in a prairie city in Canada. It's like,
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
what do you mean? How do you pay your bills like that? How are there enough people to sustain it? It's interesting because once you build a client base, like with some teaching and lessons and gigs and just various things, I mean, it's surprising how many things come up, and how specialized you are, how many people need that service,
Yeah, one thing that's definitely come up, especially through the Humber College program, is music technology,
Mm,
and how big that's been a big part of what things are kind of becoming now. Like not just social media, but like home recording and like producing and just yeah, video. Video has become a really big thing that I've started kind of exploring in my own time, and that's kind of exploded into, well, especially now. Like a lot of
yeah.
people want to do their virtual projects and multi-tracks, and I'm kind of thinking, oh, well, I've been doing that. I can help people do multi-tracks, and
Mm.
so just like weird skills like that, kind of being relevant now instead of the whole conservatory training where you're like, okay, well, you need to be good at your instrument, you need to learn this repertoire, you gotta this is how you land an audition, but they don't really tell you like the music business.
Did your program have any kind of music business or technological element to it like that then, or did you feel that was
Yeah,
maybe not as there as it could have been?
we definitely had a little bit of it. We touched a bit of it. So we had a music business course, but it was only I guess it was it was a year of marketing and a year of business, but it just kind of touched on the very basics. And we did have a music technology course that you could dig into a little deeper if you wanted to. But I feel like um, nowadays, if you have some sort of experience with working in a DAW or digital audio workstation, it kind of sets you apart. Just to have that familiarity with music technology and recording, even because none of us have easy access to kind of the studio experience now.
Yeah.
It's kind of mostly grant funded, or you're playing on another project, but most people don't have work as a session musician anymore. So just having that recording experience, even at home, I feel like has opened up a lot of doors.
Well, it can seem so simple, like, oh, I'm just going to make a quick YouTube video about how to do something, but you start to quickly realize the number of takes required and editing skills, and even just for me, the big thing to learn about has been lighting. It's amazing how
Mm.
complicated lighting is for a video, and if you don't want your video to look like crap, you have to invest a lot of time in this, and I still haven't really figured it out. But it's funny though, because I think back and I don't feel like it's been 11 years since I graduated, but it's been a while now, and looking back, that program at the time didn't have that much technology stuff, but for some reason I was very interested. So because of my interest, luckily I was able to experience a lot of like recording and using a
Hmm.
DAW, and like I took some electroacoustic music classes and things like this. But for the average person, they didn't have any of that.
Hmm.
And I just was wondering if maybe that's changed in the last 10 years, if you're kind of forced to take things like that or.
I think there's definitely a couple programs that are really pushing forward, like what is the industry doing and what does a working musician need now, but also a lot of programs that don't and are very kind of traditional, you know, uh, performance style programs that don't really touch on these subjects. Like a
Mm-hmm.
friend of mine at U of T was doing her master's recital and was asking me, "Oh, I'm doing this electroacoustic piece for microphones and a soprano saxophone. Well, how does this work again?" And it's like, okay, well, here's the equipment you'll need. Here's how to wire it, and all these things. So, definitely something that some schools definitely don't touch on, and yet is such a big part of music nowadays and how we also consume music.
And so, how much in a normal month before this whole COVID stuff, how much of your work or your income would be based on kind of your technical knowledge instead of direct saxophone or clarinet playing?
Um, it comes in waves.
Yeah.
One of the surprising things that I ended up doing was, so I engineered a friend's quintet recording that just came out recently. So that's one thing that was like, oh yeah, I can engineer a recording. Like, I'll give you a cheap rate on it because I don't do this a lot. And then I ended up doing copyist work for an arranger for a fairly large orchestra, and so that came out of nowhere because I knew the other copyist who was unavailable, and also because I had experience with working in Sibelius. So he would just send me his Sibelius file and be like, "Hey, make this look good. I'll pay you this much for it." And then nowadays, I'm working on like a big virtual chorus, virtual so all of that kind of I don't think these opportunities would have come up if I wasn't exploring these kind of music technology things. Like, so I'm not doing it. I'm more so doing it on the side, but when the opportunity comes, it's like, well,
Why
I have
not?
this skill set.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah.
Well, you got to take opportunities as they come, even if they're not quite what you imagine, because like you have to realize that your career is going to be different than that of your teachers and mentors, and in a way, lucky for that, right? You wouldn't want the exact same career, but when I was younger, I thought I'd be playing in orchestras and maybe teaching at university and things. I could never have
Mm.
imagined that I'd be, hosting a podcast and
Yeah.
working with online sales for Bakun and stuff like that. Like it's all stuff that's very interesting to me, but I just couldn't have imagined any of it. So,
Hmm.
but if I wasn't open to opportunities, I'd still just be shedding trying to win an orchestral job. Maybe I'd have one. I don't know. but
Yeah,
but things would be different, right? So, but
for
I
sure.
think that taking opportunities and exploring new directions and being able to freelance in the way that you want is a really kind of cool thing. So, one of the things about freelancing, and maybe you're approaching this stage, maybe you'll have this stage come up in the future. But there's several stages to me. The first one is kind of this sort of yes man idea, and the second one is more like figuring out the stuff you really want to do and kind of specializing and charging more appropriately maybe for that stuff and starting to say no to things which you can't really fit in anymore. So do you feel like when you do have that happen, or if you're having that happen, what are the things you think you're going to gravitate towards and try and sort of focus your freelancing efforts on?
So in the past, especially in January and February, was booking community theater,
Mm-hmm.
musical theater, and I was I was subbing for a lot of double reed chairs. So I think that really like was something that I had a lot of interest in. So like this whole doubling thing, especially here in the Greater Toronto area, it seems to be that if there's a big Broadway show going on tour, it's usually going to hit up Toronto if it's going on an international tour. So I feel like long-term goals, I'd like to do that. But this community theater thing is kind of like a nice step up into it because it still
Yeah.
pays and it's relevant. And I'm kind of carving a niche out for the person who plays double reeds, but also plays a very classical clarinet and like a pop saxophone sound, because sometimes that's what's required.
Well, because I
Um,
guess that's one of the things
so
that started happening to me was that I would be saying yes to everything, but then because I was getting so many calls to do stuff, I was spending so much of my time rescheduling or canceling stuff that I started to realize that I just should have said no to, so I could
yeah,
trust that the other stuff would come, right? So for me, it was more interesting to do a performance gig than it would be to teach a private lesson, for example.
mhm.
So I would find myself always yeah, subbing stuff out or just constantly working to reschedule. So I guess part of the freelancing thing for me was to like just have the confidence to be like, you know what, I know the work is coming. I can say no to the stuff that I truly that doesn't kind of lead me down my path, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, and I felt like after a certain time, I started saying no to stuff that just like stuff that wasn't quite polished enough, like stuff that required like really extensive rehearsal for like not a lot of like payback, or it just like wasn't prepared enough. So I
Mm-hmm.
was like, well, like I appreciate you calling me to be on your project, but I feel like someone else may benefit more from this just because let's say the rehearsal time was a lot, like a big commitment, or like it didn't pay enough that month. So
Yeah.
I think that there becomes a point in the freelancing where it's just like you'd like to say yes to everything, but it becomes not as worth it, especially now. Like I also as a band leader, I want to kind of respect other people's time compared to how much they get paid, for example. So like and I'm kind of realizing that a lot of professionals, like they've worked so hard on their craft that I don't want to be over rehearsing them if I don't have to for not enough money, because sometimes the gig will pay $20.
Yeah. Well, we
Yeah.
had this situation locally too. I won't say what group it is, but I mean, they advertise themselves as a semi-professional wind ensemble, and then they have like 11 rehearsals, and it's just insane, and none of it's paid, of course, because they
Yeah.
aren't. And So I used to just say, well, yeah, I can make the dress in the concert. I don't need to go rehearse whole second suite or whatever they're playing. Like it'd be nice to sit
Yeah,
down and
yeah.
play with them when these people, but they want you to show up to all this crazy stuff at crazy times that, the people who are actually doing music freelancing can't come to.
Hmm.
So I remember back then saying, look, I mean, why don't you guys try some daytime rehearsals? And oh, we can't. We all have jobs as teachers and things. I'm like, well, then this isn't going to work for the the people who are actually freelancing because we're busy at night, you
Yep,
know?
yep.
So, anyways, it was just kind of a weird thing to be like looking at this, and I too am mindful of that too. If you're booking something, you don't need 18 rehearsals, and if you do, it's for you for your conducting or something, not really for the person who you've hired to play. If they're any good, why do they need 18 rehearsals to to play
Yeah,
your piece? You know, so you really got to
yeah.
respect people's time, unless you're paying them. I mean, if you want to pay someone for 18 rehearsals, go right ahead.
Yeah, like one of the funniest things that happened on this note was I was playing like one of the bigger jazz clubs in Toronto with my colleague and friend Chelsea McBride's big band, and
Hmm.
her original music's pretty tough. So and I was subbing in too. So then the rehearsal was supposed to be the day before the gig, and then I get an email just before that weekend saying too many people are subbing out, so we're gonna cancel the rehearsal. Show up to the gig at this time. So I was like, okay, well, first of all, I'm subbing in. There's no rehearsal, so I better practice. And the music's a little tricky. At least, so it's just trusting the band you hire, especially as a freelance musician, to well, first of all, like have your own material together, and then hiring people that you trust to work on the material and show up prepared. Because I think that's just the mentality we all have is if we do a good job on this one, then we'll get called back.
Yeah, totally. That's the goal, right? To get called back again or get a second reference or all sorts of things.
Hmm.
So, well, thanks so much for taking the time to come back and chat with me today about what you're doing, and I hope you're staying safe during this whole situation. Is there anything
Yeah,
else
you
you
as
wanted to
well.
share with the audience here before we wrap up?
If people want to listen to what I've been up to, they can check it out at denniskwok.bandcamp.com. A new big band album, Toronto based. Everyone's under 35. New generation big band.
New generation. I still fit in for one more year.
Yeah.
That's funny. So Dennis, that's DENNISKWOK at sorry dot bandcamp.com, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, I'll check that out as soon as we're done here. And I wish you the best during this whole situation. And I hope we can chat again soon.
You as well. Have a great one.
Awesome. Have a good day, Dennis.
Bye.
Speaking of the new generation, we now have Eric Batchelder on the show, who is, like I said at the beginning, a longtime listener who was in high school when he first started listening, but is now going on to pursue his career in music. So I'm here today on the podcast with Eric Batchelder, who's a listener from Tennessee. Eric, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me, Sean.
So tell me a little bit about what got you started with clarinet.
In middle school, once you started sixth grade, you could choose either you could go into band or do related arts. And I was one of those kids who was picked on and I wanted to get out of it. So I decided to do band. I wanted to play the oboe for some reason. I don't know why. I just wanted to play it, but they didn't start on double reeds. And someone offered my mom a free flute or a free trumpet or clarinet. So I was like, I'll pick the clarinet. And then it just started from there.
So what do you think you're going to do in college?
I am planning on studying music education at Middle Tennessee State University. What I would really like to do, I know it's a lot. There's a lot, honestly, when I think about it. You never know what you really want to do. But I just want to teach, and I also want to perform too, like on the side.
So what does your dream job look like?
I wouldn't mind teaching band, but I would love to primarily work with like the clarinets and do a lot with like work with high school chamber groups and the clarinet section and like teach kind of younger clarinetists the strong fundamentals from the start because once I got into high school and doing a lot more of like competing and stuff, I didn't realize how much I was getting away with bad techniques. So it was a little rough sometimes, but I think that's what I would like to do is just teach clarinet and band.
So what really inspired you along the way as a musician then? Because it's quite a leap to say, I enjoy playing clarinet and my friends in band class to saying that, I'd like that to be my career path too, right?
Yeah, so what really got me going was once I auditioned for like the regionals band like in West Tennessee where my school competes, I met other clarinet players who are amazing, and they're all doing amazing things now. And I wanted to be up there with them, so it really motivated me to work a lot harder and get a teacher and just get on with it. And I thrived pretty well from it.
Tell me a bit about the audition process. What was that like for you, and what were some of the challenges or things you learned?
Um, so this was the first year I was actually in like consistent clarinet lessons and was like had actually worked up a piece. So I did the messager for my auditions, and for one of the schools I had to do some orchestra excerpts. So like several months in advance, I was looking on the websites, and a lot of them said two pieces. So I like contacted professors, and they were like, okay, the message is fine. But then one of the schools was like, if you can prepare two orchestral excerpts, that will be fine. But the music wasn't super hard for me to work up. It was honestly my clarinet, because I did not realize how important it is to have your clarinet overhauled. A lot of it, because I had just moved up from an intermediate model, because I went to a music camp. Well, not really, it was like a pre-college kind of thing. And everyone there had buffets, and we had master classes. And then some of the teachers were like, oh, you must be playing on a buffet, you all are playing on buffets, right? So I was like, ugh. And I actually had intentions on buying a different kind of professional clarinet, but then the day after, I bought a festival off of eBay for pretty cheap, and I played on it for I still have it now, but I just didn't get it overhauled until recently, and I wish I had gotten it done, because there's a lot of stuff going on with my instrument that I didn't realize was the instrument. And it was really frustrating, because there were things that I was playing that should have been not super difficult, but it was really a challenge trying to get over that. And then I after playing on my clarinet after it got overhauled, there's like so many little things you don't realize that is like telltale signs for an overhaul for sure.
Yeah, it's super important to keep up with that general maintenance because one of the things that happens is, the key doesn't just go from zero to broken or like a leak from, zero to gigantic, right? They usually kind of creep
Yeah.
in over time. So what ends up happening is you start to accommodate, right? And then if you're accommodating in like 50 different places, you're in this position where you're not really sure what's right and wrong anymore. And I remember this happening to me because my last instrument actually was a buffet festival too. And I had that for like 20 something years and I still had it overhauled. Like I was playing professionally, and so it was getting overhauled on a regular basis. But when I finally decided to start trying some new instruments, I was blown away because like, an instrument that's played every day for hours for 20 years is just not going to be in as great a shape as new ones, and it's just the way that it is. I mean,
Yeah,
there's a lot of
sure.
talk about clarinets, whether they get better or worse with time, and I'm pretty sure that they're not like violins. Like you're not like blowing into your violin,
Yeah. you're
you
not
know.
you're not putting it's not getting basically expanded from whenever you play it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Not to mention like the air going through there and the swab being pulled through, thousands of times
For
and
sure.
all that kind of thing. So what tips do you have for other people who might be looking to go audition for college or university programs?
Definitely look beforehand and see what repertoire and kind of stuff they're asking. See if you need to get an accompanist, schools. You just want to make sure that you don't have to like overload on a lot of the repertoire. If you can play the same things, definitely do that. See if there's pre-screenings. Definitely see if you can meet up with a professor beforehand and work with them just to see if it's a good personality fit for sure. Luckily, I knew all of the professors that I was auditioning with. One of them I actually studied with privately, and the other two I knew personally. So it wasn't like meeting someone brand new, but definitely if you haven't met someone, like if you're auditioning like out of state or somewhere, it's really good to go and tour the school and see the music program and see if it's a good fit for you for sure.
So were you able to use the same accompanist for each school, or how many auditions did you end up doing?
Mine didn't require an accompanist,
Oh, that's
but
right.
some of my friends when they auditioned, they had to go and have one with them.
Yeah, because one of the challenges too sometimes is that you think, you're going to go there and do the audition and come back, but if you're in three different cities, you might have to work with three different accompanists if you need that for the audition, right? So I would definitely
Yeah.
say try to get there more than the morning of. Try and get there the day before at least, so you can meet with this person and work with them because it's going to be a different experience each time, and they have to get to know you, and the way you are and all that too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Fortunately, the one playing in my recital, she's playing it for free, which is it's just a blessing for sure.
Yeah,
Because it can get really expensive.
oh yeah, some schools offer to pay a portion of your accompanist, and some schools actually, I think they have other pianists who are there in their program as like collaborative pianist program or something. And I think at those schools they actually make those pianists work with you as part of their credit, which makes a lot of sense. But when I went to school, yeah, we had to pay these people, and looking back, we probably didn't pay them well enough for what they put up with for us students, as far as like
Yeah.
rescheduling and practicing
Yeah.
and being a little unprepared and stuff like that. But I remember it being a bit of a burden that I was not expecting when I went into school. That's for sure. So, but
Yeah.
you got to pay these people for their time, I guess.
Oh, for sure. I feel like they don't get enough credit for all the work that they do.
Oh, totally, totally. I always joke because my wife plays piano, and she always jokes that she has way more notes than me if we play something together. Because I got
Yeah.
10 fingers on there. They are doing a little bit more, but so it's pretty funny that way. What are some takeaways from your teacher? You said you were taking some regular clarinet lessons.
Definitely never take any of the lessons for granted because you never know. Because, there's still things from like, because I've had two previous teachers and I still value both of their what I've been taught. I still apply it, but probably is just probably being humble always. It always goes a long way.
So thank you so much, Eric, for talking to me today. I really hope that you have a great time in the fall when you go
Thank
back
you.
to school. Hopefully, let's hope that things work out as far as going
Yeah,
back.
it, it,
So
it's been a little weird.
a tricky time, that's for sure. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show today. Anything else you want to share before we wrap up?
No, I just had a great time. I've been listening for years. The first time I listened, I was working a summer job. We were traveling a lot, and I think I went through all of your episodes within like 2 months.
Oh
It was
wow.
it was neat.
When was it? Clarinet, yeah.
It
When
was
was
like
this?
years ago.
Oh wow.
I think whenever I start, I mean, I think I'd been following the page, but I just didn't have anything to listen to the podcast to. And when I got a cell phone, I was just listening and listening. It was good. It was fun.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Eric, and I hope you have an um, excellent spring here and fall.
You too.
Thank you so much for listening to the Clarinet podcast. Before you go today, do not forget to go to clarinet.com/enter to enter to win the Bakun Protege Clarinet and 6 Leger reeds of your choice worth over $3,000. Again, that's clarinet.com/enter. Next time we'll be continuing Listener Appreciation Month with 2 more listeners. Hopefully I get that one out tomorrow. I actually found a folder with a bunch more interviews that I remember recording in the spring. As many people are aware, I'm sure this spring was pretty frazzled, and I got way more of these episodes in the can, so to speak, than I remembered having done. So I have a few more episodes like this to get out, but I do hope that you are enjoying listening to what other listeners have to say. I sure do enjoy talking with people from all around the world. I want to take a moment to thank our Patreon backers, all 77 of them, but especially those who are contributing at more than $10 a month, our gold sponsors. This is Andrew M., April J., David S., Debbie A., Glenn K., Jason S., Josh N., Karen D., Miguel D., Patty S., William L., and Robert W. Thank you so much to all of you for helping support the show behind the scenes. And if you want to get access to an ad-free extended version of the show yourself, you can do this for as little as $1 per month at clarinet.com/subscribe. Of course, thank you to our wonderful sponsors. We have Bakun Musical Services, and you can save 10% on any purchase now at bakunmusical.com. Maybe it's time to upgrade your mouthpiece, your barrel, your bell, maybe your entire clarinet, and they are now actually stocking the Leger European Signature reeds as well, so you can check that out at bakunmusical.com. Don't forget to use code Clarinet again for 10% off at bakunmusical.com when you're shopping for your next clarinet accessory or instrument. Also, we have Leger reeds. These are really fantastic, and I just got in the mail some of these new reeds with the exciting new case design inside. I'm going to be doing an unboxing of that on YouTube. This is the year I actually really do want to get my YouTube channel going, so I'm going to be doing some new content on there, and one of the first things will be the unboxing of the new Leger reed, which you can check out at the Clarinet YouTube channel at youtube.com/clarinet. So don't forget also to try out these reeds for yourself. I think you'll really love many things about them, ranging from the durability to the longevity to the amount of money you'll save, and the amount of time by not fussing with your reads constantly. So you can check out Leger Reads at leger.com. That's legere.com. Thank you so much for listening to the Clarinet Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Perrin, signing off from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And I look forward to seeing you next time on the show. Clarinet is the show for clarinetists.